Well, hello everyone, and welcome back for the upcoming season's edition of the DC Capstone Report. That podcast on Alabama football. It's great to be back with you. Been off for a good hiatus on the off season, and we always start back up the week of fall camp. So it's good to be back with you. I want to thank all those that have continued to listen and watch our content that we put up on our website over the summer, and thank y'all for still being along, having so many followers that still follow along with us. We've actually grown in followers over the summer, so thank you for that. But it's great to be back talking about Alabama football, and we're in fall camp mode and ready to go. So in our first segment today, we're going to look at the preview of the fall camp, and then our second segment, we're going to take a look at our projection for the offensive depth chart. In our third and final segment, we'll look at the projections for the defensive depth chart and special teams.
You're listening to the DC Capstone Report. The DC Capstone Report is featured each Tuesday morning on the Martin Houston Show at Tide 100.9. You can listen live at Tide100.9.com.
Well, welcome back everyone to the DC Capstone Report. It is great to be back for another year. Lance and I sure enjoy being able to do this each and every year. Wouldn't this be possible without Lance Shores and all he does in the studio producing this podcast each and every week. This week starts our podcast that'll go throughout the year on Alabama football. If you're new to this podcast, we hope you would share it with all your friends. And we talk about a unique perspective of Alabama football here, and we love to discuss things that are happening, so that keeps all of our listeners up to date on what's going on. So couldn't do this without our sponsors, so let's first talk about our sponsors. I want to thank Karen Cottingham, our sponsor, with the Karen Cottingham with the Williams Group at Keller Williams, a real estate agent right here in Tuscaloosa. You can call Karen for all your real estate needs at 205-887-4008. Right now she's busy working on getting students in apartments and townhomes, and if you're in the market for a game day condo, she's the person to contact here in Tuscaloosa. Or if you want to sell a house or you want to buy a house, give Karen Cottingham a call at 205-887-4008. And I also want to thank Lance Shores and RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com. Lance has some great pictures on FreelancePictures.com, some wonderful wildlife pictures and other things. Especially love his beautiful photography when it comes to his hummingbirds and that sort of thing. As we get closer into the season, he's the site that you want to go to get your pictures of your Crimson Nets or your band members, the $1 Million Band members, football players. He does a great job of covering Alabama football and a lot of other interesting facts. And RollTideBama.com is another site that Lance has that puts up a lot of good Alabama content. So I want to thank again my sponsors, Karen Cottingham, Realtor, right here in Tuscaloosa with the Williams Group at Keller Williams, and RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com. Well, let's get into the preview of fall camp. Everyone's been talking about it. Alabama's finally got back into the swing of things. Kalen DeBoer in his second season. What are we to expect? Well, this first week of fall camp, they went in shells for a while and finally put on the pads toward the end of the week. And, of course, it's toward the end of that week that you get that first pad hitting. There may be some drop-off, but from what I've heard from Coach DeBoer, it's really been a really consistency of this team. So the first thing I think that we need to talk about is the culture of this Alabama football team. You know, I believe that there was a culture problem last year, and that's the reason we lost some of the games that we lost. And that was just a move over from Coach Saban to Coach DeBoer, and Coach DeBoer did things differently. We had a lot of holdovers from Coach Saban's tenure, who did it one way, and Coach DeBoer was teaching it another way. And there's always going to be those frictions that happened during that time. And so I think that we had little frictions that happened, and that caused some problems on our team, and the culture just wasn't as solid as it had been in years past. But I think the number one thing that's going to be different about this team, what I've seen so far in fall camp, is the culture change. I believe everyone has bought in to Coach DeBoer that's on this team. And I say that because something happened in the offseason that I think was very rare in this day and time of NIL and transfer portal. and that is after spring practice, no one transferred out. We had some transfers prior to the spring, but after spring practice, no one transferred out. Everyone seems to have bought into this team and where this Alabama football team is headed. And I think we're heading in a great direction. The number one thing is the culture change. Coach DeBoer, in his second year at his other stops, wherever they've been, we've always seen him make a jump in that second year. And I think that this is no different. There's no reason, based on what I'm seeing from the culture change that's happened at the university and the teams, players that are buying into Coach DeBoer and his philosophies, there's no reason that we won't see that same jump in the second year at Alabama for Coach DeBoer. And I believe that this Alabama team has the talent, has the players, has the ability to compete for a national championship. The only thing that I think is holding them back was the culture from last year, and that's what I've been waiting to see. And quite frankly, early in 1 week of the fall camp, I see a lot of players stepping up. Everything that's been reported back to me, we got a lot of great leadership on the team and really a big buy-in to what Coach DeBoer is trying to do. So I think the number one difference between this team and last year's teams will be that culture shift that has caused Alabama to be a much better team this year. The second thing that I think is going to be a telltale sign of how improvement this team is the Ryan Grubb effect. In the offseason, we know Ryan Grubb came in as the offensive coordinator, and that's what was planned for last year. It was planned for last year for Alabama to have Ryan Grubb come in and be the offensive coordinator, and then that didn't happen when he took the job in the NFL after being on Alabama job for a short time. And so we had him not coming, and so we kind of threw a difference in the plans. But I think him coming this year, his ability to work with Coach DeBoer is going to be a great opportunity for this offense. And what I've heard him speak, he's already done some great installs. The players are learning them, and it gives opportunities for players to have hands-on coaching. And I think we're going to see it from the top down on offense for an opportunity for this team to improve. And so the Ryan Grubb effect, I think, washes over this entire team. It gives another coach bringing in a great philosophy, very, very familiar with what Coach DeBoer wants to do. And he gets to translate that down to the entire team. So I think it's going to affect our offense in a major good way, and I think it's going to affect our defense in a good way. So basically what I've seen so far in fall camp is to see a well-oiled machine that we really wasn't going that well last year, and the culture shift being a positive effect. So I think that when we get down to the nitty-gritty of how they're going to play each and every day, moving into the rest of this week in fall camp, as we look forward to the scrimmage that's going to take place this coming Saturday, I think we're going to see some big, big differences in this Alabama team as compared to last year's team. So look for Alabama to be good on offense and really, really good on defense. As we get into the next segments, we'll talk about those individual performances that we see, how they're working their way into the starting lineup as we preview the depth chart. Well, welcome back to the second segment of the DC Capstone Report, talking about Alabama football. And today, in the second segment, we're going to talk about the offensive projections of what I see this offense. And this is where we're going to talk about individuals. And I know it's early on in the season, but here's some individuals you need to get to know. First of all, let's start with the quarterback room. The quarterback room has three people, I think, that are vying for the position of starting quarterback, and that is Ty Simpson, Austin Mack, and Keelan Russell. Ty Simpson's been in the program a long period of time, has the most experience, and I think he is your leader right now. The coaches have said if we played a ball game today, he would be starting quarterback. And so I think that that is your leader right now, and I look for him to be projected as the number one player at quarterback position going into the first game. I look for him to start against Florida State. We'll know more of how they produce in the scrimmage this coming Saturday, so maybe on next week's podcast we'll have a little more information. But I think Austin Mack and Keelan Russell are your number 2 and 3, and I think it's interchangeable. I think the upside with Austin Mack is he's had a year into the system, and he's matured more, has a strength And then you got Keelan Russell, who has got the highest upside of all three of the quarterbacks. The athleticism, to put the ball placement, just needs to learn the system, learn the playbook, and I think he is going to make a great quarterback at Alabama. So, but I do believe Ty Simpson will be the starter, and you could pencil him in, I believe, as your starting quarterback. And I think we're in good hands with either one of those, Austin Mack or Keelan Russell. They get an opportunity to play during the year. So, moving on to the running back room, I think we have a really good running back room. I think the top three that's going to be in a rotation to get some carries this year. Jam Miller, I think, will get the start. I think you can pencil him in as your starter on day one. Richard Young, another great opportunity there for him to get some playing time. And then Daniel Hill. All three of those in the system last year, knows what to expect. And I think that all of them have kind of generated some buzz this year. When you look at those three, Jam Miller, Richard Young, and Daniel Hill, I really believe them to get the majority of the carries. I think Jam Miller and Richard Young, either one of them could start and do really, really good. And I believe Daniel Hill is a great option as well. The other name that you might want to hear is there's Dre Washington. I think he is a transfer that's come in from Louisiana, and I'm not sure where he's going to land in that pecking order, but he might be able to work himself in and get some carries as well. But I really believe that that running back room is good, and I think Jam Miller gets the start. Richard Young will get in and get some playing time early in the game, and then Daniel Hill will also contribute on the running back. Moving on to the wide receivers, I think the wide receiver room is stacked. Number one thing, I think it's got talent top to bottom in the wide receiver room. Have them all in the wide receiver room, we are in a great position at wide receiver. Ty Simpson is going to have so many options, so many playmakers to get the ball to. But I believe your starting three are going to be Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, and a transfer from Miami, Isaiah Horton. I think those three may get your starts, but you're going to see a lot more players play in this position. I think the next three you got are Rico Scott, who has really come on and really, I believe, is making some waves. And then two players that's been injured, Cole Adams coming back from an injury. I think he is a great possession receiver across the middle. And then you got Jalen Hale. What a story. Such a bad injury that he's had to deal with a couple of years, and he is coming back with a vengeance. I have heard some great things about him being talked about, of what he's done and the character that he has displayed on coming back. What a comeback story he would be to get in and really contribute to this team. And then don't forget about Jalen Mbakwe. Jalen Mbakwe has really made some waves during this transfer from the defense to the offense, and I think there's a place for him to play on this side of the ball as well. And then you got some freshmen that might contribute. Still, maybe some of them have gotten dinged up the first week of practice, like Locher Brooks, and kind of put him back a little bit. But there will be some freshmen that might be able to separate themselves in some playing time over the year. But overall, this Alabama wide receiver room is stacked. Well, we go from the Alabama wide receiver room with so much depth and experience to the Alabama tight end room, and really don't have a lot of experience in that tight end room at all. I guess your starter would be Josh Wavis. He's coming back, transferred in. He's coming back, but I think this whole room has been dinged up with some injuries over time, so it's hard to know where the pecking order is going to be. But I'd say your top two are Josh Wavis and Danny Lewis Jr. Danny Lewis Jr. may be more of a blocking tight end that can catch, and Josh Wavis being more of a catching tight end that can block. And so that might be their strengths, you might find. But down behind them, there's some names and some transfers in and some from freshmen. You got Brody Dalton, Marshall Pritchett, Jack Samarco, and Caleb Edwards that all might get to contribute. It's too early to tell on the tight end room because there's so much inexperience there who might step up and be the one to play. But look for Josh Wavis and Danny Lewis Jr. to be your main two, I believe, that gets the starting nod early on. Well, then the offensive line. Offensive line should come back with some experience this year and have an opportunity to make the play start up in the offensive line. I think at your left tackle spot, you can go ahead and pencil in Caden Proctor. I think he's going to be your left tackle. I think your center spot is nailed down with Parker Brailsford, might be one of the best centers in the nation. And I think your right guard spot might be is nailed down with Jaden Roberts. You know, he is a mauler and really good. So your right tackle position, I believe Wilkin Formby will start there. I believe he's the one's got more experience and an opportunity to get better. I think you see him there. So I think at your left guard position, that is where we're going to see the most competition, I think. And there's a scenario here that some people are talking about that maybe Gino Vandermark gets the start there. But I think he's in a battle with Cam Dewberry, the transfer in from Texas A&M. And I think you're going to see that go on and on. If it was me, I would give the nod to Cam Dewberry starting there. And Gino Vandermark is that Swiss Army knife that he can play either guard spot and center. So you want him available at any time to jump in for an injury or need a spot. I believe you want him available for those positions to come in and relieve someone. And that doesn't if Cam Dewberry is the same quality or better, then I think Cam gets to start so that Gino Vandermark can go in and just plug and play in any of those positions when needed, and it doesn't upset the remainder of the offensive line. But there's some depth behind them. I think we got Casey Poe, Jackson Lloyd, both playing behind left tackle. Behind Caden Proctor, you got William Sanders, who can play either the guard spots. You got Rock Montgomery that can also be a center. I think Gino Vandermark's probably your first go-to center there when something happens to Parker Brailsford. But Rock Montgomery, Joseph Ionata, they're both players that can play center. And then on your right guard, behind Roberts, you got Oleus Alien and Michael Carroll. I think Michael Carroll's come on and really shown some. And then the one thing to watch, if Wilkin Formby gets pushed at all, it'll be by Arkel Agnugwam. He is a transfer from Ball State who has had about 100 snaps of experience, I think, 110 over his span with Ball State. And I think that you've got opportunity for him to at least give some competition to Formby at right tackle. And then you got that freshman Micah Dubose, who is really coming along, but no experience at all. So I think that kind of rounds out the offensive perspective from at least from my perspective, as who we might see as projecting starters as fall camp ends and we get ready for the game against Florida State. Well, welcome back to the DC Capstone Report, third and final segment of the day. It's great to be back talking about Alabama football. And again, I want to thank my sponsors, RollTideBama.com, FreelancePictures.com, and Karen Cottingham, realtor right here in Tuscaloosa, for all your real estate needs. Let's go into this third and final segment talking about what I think is going to be a big plus for Alabama this year, and that's its defense. I believe that Alabama has the potential to have the best defense in the nation. I just believe that. I think that the coaches that have so much talent on the defensive side of the ball, if we can get this talent that I'm going to talk about here in positions the way they need to, and to really fill those positions well, I think we're going to have a solid defense this year. So right off the bat, I believe the bandit, as Alabama calls it, that defensive end position, I think L.T. Overton is going to be your projected starter there. I think L.T. Overton has an opportunity. He was so close last year on getting sacks and was just a step off or a place off. I think Kane Womack has talked about him getting that next step and getting to the ball, getting there on time and making those plays. So I look for L.T. Overton to really ratchet up his second year at Alabama after transferring in. I think you're going to see him really, really shine in this bandit position to make those sacks. I think at defensive tackle, the starter, I believe you're going to have Tim Keenan and James Smith. I think that's going to be your two that's going to start. I think Tim Keenan and James Smith probably going to bring a lot of beef and a lot of nasty to that defensive line. I think defensive tackle is going to be a really big consistency for us, having Tim Keenan and James Smith play in those positions. I think they're really going to make a difference in stopping the run this year, something that we may have been weak on last year. At the Wolf outside linebacker position, you got a lot of experience there. I think Quay Russaw gets to come if he gets his injuries under control. I think he has a potential to start there. And then you got Jamarian Latham, kind of moved over from the defensive line to that outside linebacker position. He has a lot of quickness and speed, and he might be pushing Roos off for some of those snaps there at that one. And then you got the veteran Yanze Pierre in that position as well. And don't forget about true freshman Noah Carter. I think any of those could be a contributor at that Wolf outside linebacker position. In middle linebacker, that's where you got your most returning starters with the most experience. You got Deontay Lawson and Justin Jefferson. If Deontay Lawson comes back with the same ability he had before pre-injury, then we're in for a treat this year, folks, at middle linebacker, because you got Justin Jefferson, who has been able to even move into a greater role last year and get more experience last year. He comes in this year with an opportunity to really be a solid partner right beside Deontay Lawson. So it might be a great 1-2 punch to stop the run and cover the pass as well. So look for them to start. Behind them, you got a couple of people who don't really have any kind of experience here. You got a Colorado transfer and Nikai Hill Green. He's coming in. I think he'll take some of the reps away. And then you got QB Reese or Caden Jones. Either one of those might be able to come in and play behind those middle linebackers, give them some breathers. But the Alabama secondary might be the where we are most stacked in this secondary. And man, we've got some players in this secondary that can really play and do a really good job. So I'm looking forward to how we cover the pass and stop the run with this secondary. But at safety positions, I think we got two best safeties in the nation, Keon Sabb and Bray Hubbard. Look for them to get the start there. And behind them, Xavier Mincy and Cameron Howard. They can give them some, I believe, a spell of relief when needed. But Keon Sabb and Bray Hubbard, I think the upside there for those two at safety is really, really good. I think leadership is really good at that position. And I think they're both ball hawkers. Getting in there and interceptions, I think, might be up this year just because Keon Sabb and Bray Hubbard have a ability to kind of track that ball. At cornerback, you got Xavier Brown and Damani Jackson. I think two good starters there. I think behind them, Cam Calhoun and Dijon Lee is a freshman. I think you might see him get on the field early in some capacity just because he's such a five-star talent. It's hard to keep him off the field. And then at that Alabama Husky defensive back position, the one that does a lot in that stop the run, rush the passer, cover the backs, and cover the tight ends, cover the slot sometimes. Ask a lot to be done by this Husky defensive back. And I think Deshaun Jones and Dre Kirkpatrick Jr. are your two that's going to vie for playing in that one. But you might see someone else, like one of those safeties, like Xavier Mincy, push for playing time at that as well. It's going to be a great problem to have so much talent to get them on the field. But I think as our wide receiver room might be so stacked on the offense, our defensive backs, safeties, might be the biggest stacked on our defense as well. And finally, special teams. I think Alabama's kicker this year is going to be Connor Talty. I think he has kind of solidified that in what he's done is his consistency. But I think the punter is up for grabs. I think there's really competition right now between the two. We have a true freshman, Alex Asparov, who is battling a transfer in, Blake Dowd. So I really believe that you're going to see one of those win the job, and it's going to come probably in some of these scrimmages that we're having. But right now, if there's any position on the team that's up for grabs, I believe punter might be where there's the most competition, where we really can't make a prediction as to which one will start against Florida State. Well, that's all we have today for the DC Capstone Report. I really appreciate y'all tuning in for our first one of the year as we have previewed the fall camps, and then we've projected our starters on offense and defense. And we look forward to being with you this year. Follow us on Facebook at dccapstonereport.com. Follow us on our DC Capstone Report YouTube channel. You can hear our podcast on Spotify. So there's really a good opportunity for you to listen to it and share it with your friends. And really, really, really appreciate each and every one of you tuning in each and every week. Well, until next week, this is DC with the DC Capstone Report. Going to sign off with a big Roll Tide to start the year.